In the beginning, the story of mankind continues. From Adam's first breath to the flood that would reshape the earth, Genesis 5 holds a legacy of faith, obedience, and the unwavering hope in God's promise. But what happens when lifetimes stretch for centuries? What do the ages of man say about the covenant of life itself? Welcome back to the Testament Vault. Today we're diving into Genesis 5. It's a chapter not often talked about in church, but one filled with meaning. Generations, lifetimes, and a story of God's faithfulness over thousands of years. Let's explore. Genesis 5 introduces us to the descendants of Adam. Adam lived 930 years, and from him came Seth. This was the beginning of a lineage that would see the rise and fall of countless generations. But what makes these names significant? Why should we care about the ages and numbers? The generations of Adam. We begin with Adam, the first human, whose life was a witness to the unfolding of the creation story. Then his son Seth, born after Abel's tragic death, would carry the line forward. But it wasn't just about lineage, it was about faith and devotion. Adam's line was marked by long life and worship of God. Enoch, a man who walked with God. Among the many names listed, one stands out: Enoch. Enoch walked with God, and he was no more, because God took him. Enoch's life is a testament to what it means to live in harmony with the Creator. A life of faith that didn't end in death, but in divine transcendence. What does it mean to walk with God? Is it possible for us to live a life so aligned with God's will that our journey on earth ends before death? Importance of Enoch's righteousness. Enoch's story is brief but powerful. For 365 years, he walked with God. His reward was to be taken by God, bypassing death itself. This illustrates that God's relationship with his people can be profound and intimate. Even in the midst of a corrupt and sinful world, God saw in Enoch something worth taking. He was a man of righteousness, a shining example of faith. Methuselah, the longest life in the Bible. Next, we meet Methuselah, the longest-lived man in the Bible. Methuselah's 969 years are a symbol of God's mercy. His life spanned nearly a millennium, a timeline that gives us insight into God's patience and grace before the flood. It is said that his death was the catalyst for the coming of the flood, a powerful reminder that God's warnings come with great patience, but also with great urgency. Noah, the righteous man. And then, at the end of this genealogical line, we find Noah, a man found righteous in the sight of God amidst a world full of corruption. Genesis 5 ends with Noah, and while this chapter doesn't dive into the flood, it is here we see the birth of the man who would become the vessel for God's saving grace. The pattern of generations. What is the significance of these generations? Adam to Noah spans nearly 1,000 years of humanity. We see the pattern of sin, faith, and redemption, a cycle that will continue to unfold throughout the Old Testament. These long lives remind us of God's slow and deliberate plan. Generations after generations walk out God's will on earth, each playing their part in a larger divine story. Reflection. As we reflect on Genesis 5, we see the unfolding of God's legacy through human history. From Adam's creation to Noah's deliverance, this chapter is more than just a list of names and numbers. It's a reminder that every life has purpose. Even when the world seems dark, God's plan for redemption is already in motion. The question remains, are we walking with God like Enoch, faithful and true? Are we listening to the call to make a difference in the generations that follow? In the coming chapters, we'll witness a world on the brink of destruction. Yet God, ever faithful, begins anew. What will happen when the flood comes? And what does it mean for us today? Stay tuned for the next chapter of Genesis as we unravel the beginning of God's ultimate redemption story.